So, Mike, so maybe we can go ahead and use that to transition because I heard some top 20 verses on this Russ album.
I did too.
Right.
Let's go to the Russ album real quick, and
Let's
then
go
I'm
to
gonna
the
come
Russ
back
album.
to. All right, so what are you giving the Havoc and Styles P album?
I think it's a solid four. It's like right at a four.
Okay, I'll
Yeah.
buy that. I'm going maybe like 375 to
Yeah, I
4.
kind of felt I kind of got that tone like you felt that way, Mike. But like when I got to the end of that album, I'm like, no, 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 they on a nice little roll here because pretty much from 21 Gun Salute on, they're on point. You know what I'm
I
saying?
got
So
to
I like
hold
it.
producers accountable, man, and that's because being a adult producer, that's an ageless thing. Like you could be in your 50s and 60s and still be making some dope ass beats in ways that maybe your breath control as a vocalist might not hit the same at 50s and 60s. You know what I mean? So it's a little
So,
different.
so hey, so let me ask you something because it kind of crossed my mind because we've been working on the yearbook for 2021 and I've been kind of going through albums and listening to stuff. So I was actually thinking about one of my favorite moments this year is actually when we interviewed Love the Genius and we talked about her album Thy Will Be Done. What do you think this project is better than Thy Will Be Done?
I'm gonna have to go listen to both. I don't You know what? I would say no because we're talking about an individual who is breaking through and making what I'm saying like some of the best material
Right.
at what I'm saying of her career. When we're talking about these two guys who have such a rich legacy,
So, but
it's hard to really just put the two there and what I mean listen equally.
well, I will. So it's like that's why I gave Thy Will Be Done a 4.25 because I do think it's a better project than this project
Mm-hmm.
because it has Tunchi, it has Bailey Ave. Those are
Right.
tracks. I mean, Mike, like one of those two tracks definitely is probably making the top 20 songs this year. Maybe both of them, Mike. And there aren't even too many albums that came out this year that I'm looking at. Multiple tracks from an album that would have made this list. And so that's what I mean about kind of how I'm rating it. It's like when I listen to that Styles and Havoc, that Good as Gold is the only record that I heard like that from
Mm-hmm.
a 10-track album that might make our top 2025 songs. On Love's album, it's what, 7 records? I heard 2 records that might be top 2025. So
I know, man. I actually like the Mickey Fax and Blue album better than this one too. But
I had
again, I
Mike.
need to go
I had
back and listen.
Mike. If I'm not mistaken, we rated that at the same rating that we rated Love's album, which was a 4.25, and that's why I'm saying it's like no, putting it at a 4 is kind of in line
Yeah,
because I think it's a notch below. Same style project, brief, strong, some good highlights, but not as good as Mickey and Blues project, and not as good as Love project, which we gave 4.25.
yeah, definitely. Okay, let's go on to this Russ because man, we're like 55 minutes in and it don't even feel like it, man. We got a lot of people in the room. We want to talk about this Russ
Subscribe to the
album.
page
Yes,
since you're in the
yes,
room.
yes, yeah. I missed that part of it. Yeah, subscribe to According to Hip Hop on YouTube. Click the bell icon so you can know when we're going live. And we're gonna talk about this Russ album. What was the name of this album, man?
Oh,
It
that's
was.
crazy, Mike. You want to know what's crazy that we're both saying that? I took notes and I wrote everything down because I'm like, I know, I
I
know
know.
Mike got the album title.
Oh, Chop Two, tripping. Okay, so this track list was released yesterday, and people were going nuts about it. I
Mhm.
mean, Russ, man, he pulled out all the stops for this, man. You got Blue Chips featuring Ransom and produced by Mr. Porter. I think that's a great verse on there, too. You got Bucket Hat Low featuring Papoose. You got Nothing New featuring The Game. I think that was a great verse, too. Produced by High Tech. You know what? That song's different than what I expected. Then you got Salute featuring Westside Gun and Styles P, produced by Ninth Wonder. Love that one too. Faith featuring Jadakiss. Free featuring Big Crit, Snoop Dogg, and produced by DJ Premier. Then you got Top of the World featuring Jay Electronica, produced by Harry Fraud. Then you got Note to Self featuring Big Sean, Wale, Joey Badass, and Hit Boy, produced by Hit Boy. Then you got a song with Conway the Machine and Ghostface Killer produced by The Alchemist. Then you got a song featuring Sci-Hi the Prince and Lloyd Banks, produced by Static Selector. Then you got a song featuring Mozzie, produced by Bink, and then Golden Rides It Out, produced by Boy Wonder. Wow, that was a mouthful. That was a lot to take in. What were your thoughts about this album?
I have a lot of thoughts about this album.
Oh, shout out to
Um,
JB Stuff. He says it's the first time I get to watch you guys live. Yeah, yeah,
what
yeah.
up?
We're gonna put y'all input in here too, man. Hopefully y'all heard the album too. I want to get the Coop's opinion on it, but yeah, we'll get to the comments too. My bad. Go ahead, Coop.
Well, where do you want to start? You want to start with the music? You want to start with the artist? You want to talk about the guest appearances? You want to talk about how the project was put together? I have a lot of thoughts.
Okay, let's start with the music, as always, and then we'll get into the others.
Okay, so Mike, the music is really, really dope. It's top five album this year dope. If we're talking just record to record, song to song, what you're hearing, what's going on beat lot wise. No, Mike, it all sounds for the most part great. A lot of these records are great. So that's what's going on musically. Mike, I immediately thought this is, even though he's an artist, Mike, it felt put together like a Rosenberg, like the Rosenberg project, like you
Hmm.
said when we talked behind the scenes this morning early, and kind of like the Static Select from last year, who also has a production credit on here as well.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
So Mike, so that's a good thing because we both enjoy both of those projects. I immediately thought about Rosenberg's project. It's like, well, we're pushing your shit back on the list about this project because this project is better and comes from an artist who can spit. You know what I'm saying? And so that's what we're going to lean on. But here's another thing that I would tell you musically about it, Mike. And we talked about this guy actually, before, and we both love him, Mike. One of my favorite Rakim songs, Mike, is I Know You Got Soul. And that's what this album is missing.
I think you're about to touch on something that Miss Mo just said. Miss Mo
Oh,
says,
hey, look here, Mike. Shout out to Miss Mo. Miss Mo has been following us consistently and in our comments putting down some high level intellectual life and hip hop talk. Shout out to Miss Mo.
she says he's doing too much. All artists he would know would get us hip hop heads happy. Russ wanna be from that cloth so bad. It's forced.
So, Mike, I get exactly where she's coming from, and she's making a very, very strong statement by saying that, and I'm almost there with her. And I'm only going to give him a slide for one thing.
Hmm.
He can spit, and you can tell that he's a 90s inspired wordsmith as an MC. Like he incorporates a 90s style rhyme scheme and thought pattern. And when I'm saying thought pattern, I'm not saying rhyme pattern. I'm saying thought pattern, as in when he's thinking of putting his words together, he's trying to be like ambidextrous with the flow, as in he can go back and forth with a simile or a metaphor with it. That's what your great 90s MCs can do, like a Jadakiss,
Hmm.
or to go to today, like a Conway. So he's showing that he has tools. But here is also the problem with that. It's like, oh, you have tools, but you're not quite at the level of the people that you called upon. And
Is
so
it the
I'm going to give
soul
it.
thing you were saying
I'm,
about?
I'm going to get to that. I'm
Okay,
going
go
to give
ahead.
him credit for being ambitious because here's the thing about it. In order to get on tracks with these guys and rhymes, oh, you got to be nice. And he is that. But are you these guys? No. And it shows when you rap next to them on the album. Like you do your thing and I can hear you, but I can also hear that you're the young person without an identity on the track. You feel what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like you chose to go up with some heavyweights. And when I really look at this track list, and it's like, oh no, this is a track listing for Nas, for
No, I see. No,
Jay,
I agree with you as
for
far as the.
Ross,
I see
for
what you're
Tip,
saying.
for
I think he
somebody
does
epic.
have.
Like this is an epic track listing. So it's like, so let me go to something.
Yeah, yeah.
King's Disease 2 has records on there that aren't typical Nas records, but because it's Nas and because of the gravitas,
Hmm.
you still walk away from those records feeling like they're Nas records. They're on King Disease 1 and 2, Mike, Spicy, YKTV.
Hmm.
Mike, you hear those records and you're like, oh, is that Nas? And then you're like, that is Nas. But it's Nas, so it still feels like the Nas record. He's doing those types of things. he doesn't have that gravitas or identity yet, but he can spit and he's nice. And these records play pretty well. He's just low man
DeCarlo,
on the totem pole on almost all of these records.
yeah.
And it's really not fair to him. And here's why it's not fair to him. If he would have taken more of these records on by himself and really shown himself more, it would have given him the gravitas the next time around for this to stand a little better. Because I can hear that you can spit, but you called Ransom on for the second track of your album?
DeCarlo says, nah, that's not fair. He hasn't missed since 2017. That boy is dope. You know what? And I
didn't
do
say
want to
that he wasn't.
respond. I want to
That's not what I
respond
said.
to that and something you said. I think he
Not what I
does
said.
have an identity. I think that
What is it?
his identity shows when he's on songs by himself. You know what I'm saying? Like what was that? The Hustle freestyle?
That's his highlight.
That's what
That's
I'm
his
saying.
highlight.
Like, and I think these features, they got everybody's attention because obviously it's just a lot, but it kind of backfires musically because, like you said, he ends up he sounds like, I don't want to say sounds like the feature, but like when a big artist gets on the record and then they trying to put their little man on or something. Unfortunately, he said, and I'm not saying that about him. I'm saying this respectfully. He sounds like that on a lot of these records, and maybe that's because I'm more familiar with a lot of these artists' work than I am his. But with these big features and big production credits, he sounds like the little man on his own records. And this is like
Right, and
certified
that's
lover
not
boy
fair
to
to
the
him. And
max.
Mike, it's not fair to him because he's talented. He's nice. When
hmm
I just said, Mike, how many times do we get up here and talk about somebody under 30 and I say they're a 90s inspired wordsmith? I rarely say that. So
Yeah.
he's obviously dope on the mic. I'm not trying to take any of his gifts or talents away from him. But Mike, you literally have some of the best lyricists of the last 10 years on this record, on one record, not just a couple of them, but Mike, a lot of them. And so you're not really being fair to yourself because here's what happens. Hustler Freestyle is great, Mike, and you can hear who he is. He
hmm
needed to have more of that to do more of what he do. Like this is a project that you make later on, maybe not necessarily right now, because here are some of my takeaways. Mike, I mean, where you want to start with the guest appearances, Mike? Let's go to Ghostface and Conway, Mike.
I see that's where you wanted to start. I'm closing my other computer.
Mike, you want to rhyme on a track with Ghost and Conway in his prime?
And produced
Like,
by Alchemist.
Mike, you're not being fair to yourself because here's what
I
Mike.
think he did this as a fan, though. Like you said,
Mike,
I think
no. I
ambitious
get
is
it,
great.
Mike.
This is a
Mike,
very ambitious effort.
Mike, Ray and Ghost was big fans of Nas when they put him on Verbal Intercourse. How'd that go? Like, Mike, yeah, like no, like
I
how
think he
about
was
this,
looking
Mike?
for
That's
more
one,
of a
Mike.
classic moment. I feel like he approached this really, and I know I'm not joking about this. I think he approached this in the way that Rosenberg approached this. Like he approached this as a producer because Russ is a producer, engineer, and I think
Yes.
he wanted to get all of these artists together. And I think that was dope that he got Premier, Big Crit, and Snoop on the same track. I
No,
think that's
Mike.
dope.
Mike, but he's just nice enough as an MC that it's like, oh no, don't do that. Don't do too much of that. Like that's what I'm saying. It's like, no, I'm not discounting him when I'm saying that. I'm saying like, no, your gifts aren't being heard as full because Mike, Griselda put in a battery in everybody's back that came out of New York that inspired them. You called Ghostface to do a track with Conway. Ghost went crazy, Mike, because you
Yeah.
want to know what? He found out he was doing a track with Conway, and he already knew what time it was because Ghost paid attention. He like, man, this nigga about to go crazy. I'm about to go crazy too.
Well, see, one of
Where
the
does that
things that he
leave you
did,
as
since
the
you want to
MC
point
on the
that
track
song,
leading that? Mike, where does that leave you as the MC leading that record off? That's what I'm saying. It's like,
but
man, you
I
better
don't
be
think he
Nas.
cared. I
You
don't
better
think
be
he cared.
Jay.
I don't think he cared. I think he did this.
That's great.
I think he really did this for the culture. I think he
No,
really wanted
I
to
love
get
that he did it for the
Conway.
culture, Mike. It's just one of those good and bad looks at the same time. It's like, no, it's great that you did it for the culture. The record is great,
hmm
but it's like, I can hear you and you're dope. I do want to hear more of you. I want to hear more of you by yourself when you're not next to all-time great lyricists like on every other track. Mike, he got a track with Jadakiss. Mike, when I was listening to the track with Kiss, I was like, man, Kiss is like peanut butter or some shit. Like you can slap that nigga on anything or put him
Yeah.
anywhere, and like he makes it taste better or some shit. Like it's like 25 years of just putting him on something and watching him like deliver a stellar verse. You
This
got
was a
Styles on there.
selfless effort, like for real. Like I
You got
feel like
Ransom on there.
this wasn't about Russ trying to show us what he can do and this and that. I think he really wanted to pair certain people up together, like the Big Crit, Snoop, and Premier thing shows me that the
I love it.
Wale, Big Shot. You know, I think the biggest one for me, and I think this really shows where he is as far as like loving the culture, is having Saha and Lloyd Banks on the same record over a Static Selector beat. That's
Yeah,
dope. This
yeah.
wasn't about him, and
Mike,
I can't even judge it based on it being quote unquote his album. I don't think we've ever seen nothing like this, where an
Mike,
artist just said, you know what, I'm just gonna put a bunch of people together that I want to hear together, and this ain't
Mike,
about me, and I'm gonna step away.
Mike. Big Sean and Wale went crazy. Wale went crazy.
You know, there's a phenomenon out there, man, and I like Joey Badass on there too. I don't know what it is, but when Big Sean gets on a record, people go crazy. Do people not like?
Mike,
It's
no,
like they
Mike,
try
Mike,
to
no,
get me.
Mike, no,
That's
Mike.
what
He's
we get.
snapping on this one.
No,
He's
no, he
snapping on this
is.
one.
He is. No, Big
He's
Sean.
snapping on this one.
This is the thing, man. I think
Yeah,
that
like everybody's snapping. It's like, oh, this ain't fair. Everybody's snapping. Everybody, like Mike. It ain't like it's like this is what I mean. The Static Select and the Rosenberg projects. That's not everybody's A game. This got people A game on
No, you're right.
here.
Papoose
That's why
verse
it's like
on
the
here is
Conway and
crazy.
Ghostface. I was like, that's their A game, Mike. I was like, oh, I
Yeah.
was like, is that two verse top 20? Mike, I was like, is that two top 20 verses on one song? And that's not on either one of their albums. I was like, that's not fair to him.
Papoose gave his A game.
Mike,
Ransom gave his A game. The Game, and we talked about The Game too. The Game doesn't feature a lot on people's stuff.
no,
For a person
Mike,
who has so many features of his own, The Game's not on a lot of people's stuff. The Game came through.
Mike, I felt bad for Game for a minute because I'm like, everybody else came through so much. Your great verse might be the fourth or fifth or sixth great verse on here, Mike. There's top 20 verses on here everywhere. These dudes spazzed out.
You know,
Ransom
I want
spazzed
to
out.
let's talk about this. We can go to an individual record, if you will. Let's talk about Note to Self, featuring Big Sean, Wale, and Joey Badass, produced by Hit Boy. I want to give my thoughts on Big Sean's verse because it sounded like Big Sean was trying, right? And Sean's one of those rappers that
No, he succeeded. He tried and succeeded.
no, he
We need
tried to
frame that
succeed.
differently. Yeah.
But I feel like Joey Badass, on the other hand, he's more of a natural, man. It's
Yeah,
like,
it's just whatever.
and it's like when he comes through, because I saw a post earlier, people asking who had the best verse, and I'm like, well, in my opinion, I guess on a technical level, you would say Big Sean, but I think Joey Badass shined the most. It's kind of like One Train back in the day when all those people got on that track, and Big Crit just had this long verse where he went last and all that. For me, it's not even about that. Like you could do all that, but the person that just comfortably comes on the track and does that thing kind of wins it over for me. If
Mike,
that makes any sense.
I mean, I'm about to hit you with something. I actually thought Wale had the best verse.
Okay.
Yeah, I thought Wale's verse was the best.
Wale's on a roll right now, and I think
He
Wale
is.
has one of the better hip hop albums of 2021, actually,
Mike, I'm working
especially
on
in
the
his.
Mike. I'm working on the album list. Like it's looking like Florin 2 might be a top 10 album this year. It's
I
a
think
dope record.
I think Florin 2 is better than J. Cole's album. I
Okay,
enjoy
Mike.
it,
I'm
man.
gonna tell you what, Mike. So just let's go there right quick. I've been listening to a few records. I'm gonna tell you what. First of all, Isaiah Rashad's album is fire, Mike.
It is. It
That
is.
album is fire.
Yeah.
That album is fire, Mike.
Well,
It's
see,
fire.
and see again, when you talk about stuff like that, and then you talk about Russ, because I know Russ was saying in the
Oh,
on the album, we saw album of the year and all that. It's like you kind of forfeit your album of the year with this much help, but
so
I
Mike. So let me
enjoyed the
tell you what.
album.
So Mike, no. Let me tell you what Isaiah Rashad album has that this album doesn't, Mike. It's got that soul, Mike. It's got that feeling. It's got a vibe to it. It's a wave, and you feel the wave. He makes you feel the wave. You can hear a kid who's becoming a man that grew up listening to UGK, 8 Ball and MJG, Goody Mob, and Outkast, but he's got his own identity, and you're literally watching him carve it out live in front of you.
I love it.
And it sounds great listening to him carving out his identity while still paying homage to the roots that made him want to do this. That's what this album is missing. It's hitting all the technical marks. Oh, are the beats dope? Yeah. Are the rhymes great? Yeah. Is Russ nice? Yeah. Is this one of the best albums of the year? Yeah. Am I putting it ahead of Isaiah Rashad's album?
No. Well, see, this is the thing. I think when you hit all the technical marks, and that's the beautiful thing about hip hop. Like, hip hop's not like, let's just say, I mean, I don't want to say R&B, but even some pop music where you can go in there and hit certain notes, and you could walk out with a all-time great record. But with hip hop, you can do all the technical things, and it's something else that's out there that's missing. I felt like that about Logic the whole time. I'll never be able to sit here and say Logic is whack. There's no way I could even say Logic is whack. But do I listen to his stuff? No, I don't. And I'd be lying to people if I said I did. But on a technical level, he's very technically proficient. And I think Russ did a lot of this. And I don't feel about Russ like I do Logic, because I think to some degree, Russ has a little bit more soul than Logic, where I can kind of feel what he's saying a little bit. And maybe it's the voice. I don't know. But you could say that about Kendrick. But even with Kendrick's voice the way it is, I still feel where he coming from. I don't know. It's a wild phenomenon. But again, I think he's another one of these technically proficient people whose music just doesn't hit the soul, like, for lack of a better term.
That's okay.
Feel the
So
same
Mike,
way
that's why
about
I brought
Eminem.
up Rakim, and I know you got soul, because what Rakim really was, he was the first real, like Mike. He's a supreme tactician on the mic.
But
Is he
again,
not? Hold on, no. Listen to where I'm going with this. He's a supreme tactician on the mic, but Mike, he got soul. Mike, there's something about the rhythm and the melody to how he rhymes, how he puts it together, and Mike directs the tempo like a red alert. Reaches your reflex, then let it work.
These
Soul,
are also things that Eminem lacks, and I don't want to get back on that soapbox.
No, Mike, you're right. Yes, it matters. So what this album is missing is soul. So when you put it up next against Isaiah Rashad's album, it's like I'm more impressed. How about this, Mike? This is going to be one of those albums that I'm going to listen to it for the performances and not about how it makes me feel. And what do classic rap albums do, Mike? What does Aquemini make you do? What does Illmatic make you do? What does the Purple Tape? It Takes a Nation, Doggy Style, Reasonable Doubt. What do they make you do? They make you feel something. Soul, Mike, paid in full.
Yeah.
Soul, it matters, because it's really, if you really look at it, Mike, the soul of an album is really what takes it from being technically great to being classic and staying with you. It gotta have soul.
You gotta feel it. Carlos says Russ has soul, bro. LOL. Definitely more than
the album doesn't. He may have it, but the album doesn't.
He said definitely more.
Go listen to Isaiah Rashad's album next to this album and tell me that this album has soul. Like, no, Mike. When Isaiah Rashad is on Chad and he's taking the sample from Big Pimpin', like, that shit is soul, Mike. When he said, "If I wasn't rapping, baby, I would still be rapping." Like, when he's taking that and flipping, no, Mike, that's soul in this rap.